Hey there, ladies and gentlemen. I got the Metal Gear Solid 4 review cooking in the editing room right now. It should be good to go in about a day. Hell, it might even be out by the time this video gets published. So a few days ago, I got a review code, 2 of them actually, for Final Fantasy Explorers. This isn't a sponsored video for the record. I think Square Enix just wants word of mouth to spread for the game. It's been out since late 2014 in Japan, and Americans just got it a couple of days ago. So today, I got a sort of mini review podcast. I say mini review, but this video is probably going to be like 20-30 minutes long. But if you remember, I said I got 2 codes. So I got my buddy Lewis from Brain Scratch Commentaries to join alongside me. But wait a minute. I also got Ryan and Ted for Brain Scratch with me. Final Fantasy Explorers can be played with up to 4 players, so I got 3 people to join me for today's video. Guys, welcome to my humble abode. You guys are already involved in my channel in some form or fashion, but you know what I mean.
This place looks different than the last time I was here.
This isn't Brain Scratch.
So why is this going up here instead of our channel again? I mean,
so the agreement was that I get a review code. I get 2 review codes for Final Fantasy Explorers. I'd have to make something for my main channel and whoever helped me with the second code. Lewis being the volunteer for this, he's Brain Scratch, so content has to go on both channels. So for this channel, we're getting a bit of a review podcast. On Brain Scratch, you guys are going to see some live action Final Fantasy Explorers action going around the same time this video is going up, so you can catch it there amidst all the bullshit copyright strike we're going through at the moment. Pray for us, people. Anyway, so we got Ted with it. Hey, say hi, Ted. How you doing?
Hi, Ted. How are you doing?
Shut up, Ted. And of course, always my longtime friend, Ryan. Hey, Ryan. How you doing?
You all know why.
Yeah, we're all a little bummed out with all the shenanigans going on at Brain Scratch right now. That's YouTube for you. So here we go. Final Fantasy Explorers. Just from social media and word of mouth has already been spreading. There are 2 games that immediately pop up when people start talking about this, and that is Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles, which is a GameCube game that required like 3 other Game Boy Advance players to even play the fucking thing. And then there's Monster Hunter, it's just a Capcom series. You guys have any experience with either of those?
I have some slight Monster Hunter experience. Not much, because, to be perfectly honest, the gameplay didn't really draw me in very much. I get why people like it. It's very methodical and very slow-paced. Like, you have to find a specific monster, you have to track it down manually every single time. Attacking is very slow, gathering materials is very slow, and it's something that people get very immersed into, and it's just, I kind of didn't get it, I guess. So part of what made Final Fantasy Explorers click more for me, at least like got me interested in it, I guess. As someone who wasn't too into Monster Hunter was, well, one, obviously it was a franchise that I had some connection to, so, that helps. But also, everything just moves a lot faster. So, I'm one of those attention spanless little, shit faces who needs everything to go at 500 miles an hour. So, that's good for me.
Attention span little shit faces, adding one Ted's resume of names.
Yeah. Wait, no, don't do that.
I was just interested in the game because it's essentially just not an MMO, because those kind of get bogged down over time, for me at least, and this is just something I could do with friends rather than kind of be a part of a massive community, and so I was interested in that, and I just wanted to try something different.
As for me, I played Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles, and I haven't touched Monster Hunter, despite the fact that my brother owns one of the games. So I have no idea what the Monster Hunter comparisons are for, but I really did love Crystal Chronicles when I played it in single player, because I didn't have enough friends to play with me, and even if I did, I don't have spare Game Boys and connectors lying around, which throws a bit of a wrench in things.
The one thing I really want to start off with Final Fantasy Explorers is this game is very handheld focus, and by that I mean the quests are pretty small for the most part. Areas are tiny, doesn't take very long to do. This game was clearly designed for a handheld mentality, which is A+. If you're going to design it for a handheld, make it handheld. Don't make me sit through like 3 hours of cutscenes and have nothing to show for it.
This is tangential, but I don't know what Beamdog was smoking when they made a mobile version of Baldur's Gate.
That said, as something, I'm not sure if you guys felt this as well, because when we all met up to record footage for this, it did get a bit repetitive, didn't it? Like,
Little bit, yeah.
You know, as far as I can tell, that's kind of the point when it comes to these Monster Hunter style games, is that people like doing the same kind of quests over and over again to gather specific materials to power up like their armor to go out and do more quests. So, you know, I get that that's kind of the appeal of this genre, but I also think that there's a reason why it's not as widespread a genre as, say, your more traditional RPG.
I would say it did slightly feel repetitive, but more toward the beginning when the tutorial quests were still in full swing, enemies died quickly and all of that. Once we got past the airship quick travel mission, and then we started fighting Eidolons, things got quite a bit more involved, and I dread the prospect of fighting those things in single player.
I did notice that the more players you have on your team, the beefier enemies get, because after we did our little recording sessions, I went back to the single player and do a few quests to show off some of the monsters that you can gather for your troops and use them as party members. And it was later in the game quests around the same level as we were all tackling, and I was one-shotting a lot of creatures, and I didn't level up that much between sessions. So I'm wondering if the difficulty is dynamic, wherein the more people that you recruit, the harder the game gets to emphasize teamwork.
No, that's definitely true, because earlier today I was able to take down Shiva like 4 times on my own with just the help of my monsters. I was able to beat Ramu on my own when he gave us a lot of trouble. Yeah, White made full life. What's interesting, though, is that as far as I can tell, monsters added to your team don't give that same kind of difficulty spike that having a real person on your team would.
Oh no, they're unreliable as fuck. I got a chocobo Atmalith, because by the way, you can kill chocobos in this. I mean, the purpose of it is so that you can recruit it for your team, so you don't feel too bad about it. But I recruited a chocobo and a floating eye in our remake.
No, John.
What?
You didn't kill it. It just fainted.
You're right. It fainted, and I took its soul. So I made it a teammate. Part of my team and all that, but it wasn't doing shit. And I noticed that you can collect a lot of souls in this game. The game calls them Atmaliths, and the general purpose is that you can either take that soul and make it into a monster buddy, very much like your own little Pokemon in the Final Fantasy world, or you can use that soul and forge it into a creature you already own to level him up.
Yeah.
But that also costs gil for some reason.
And want to know what also costs skill? Signing up for quests. I am going to pay to do work for you. Okay.
And then you're going to pay me.
Well, you only lose out in the end if you fail the quest and somehow don't make back enough money to cover the cost. And even if you fail the quest, you might still get money from it. So I'm not really sure what the money requirement is even for.
No, a sub-quest sort of makes sense for me, because in those, like, they're pretty much miniature tasks that you can take while doing a main quest. And it's essentially you're converting gil to crystal points. Crystal points are what you use to level yourself up with abilities. So if you're a black mage, you head to the little crystal shrine in the center of the town, and you learn new abilities by investing crystal points into the spells. You're buying magic, pretty much. It's very much how the Final Fantasy V and Final Fantasy 1 through 5, I guess, handled spells. So I think that's the main reason for it. But I agree, main quests, investing gil in that makes no fucking sense.
Far be it from us to sound particularly negative about the game, because during the time we were playing together, we had quite a bit of fun.
Oh, I agree.
You'll probably get more of that when we do our brain scratch videos, which I don't know if they'll be up before or after this one.
Around the same time, I'm going to make sure.
Yeah. So we did a few quests there, and at some point, I suppose John is probably going to put a link down there or over there or somewhere. I can't point. You can't see me on the screen. I'm pointing. Why am I pointing?
This is definitely a game where you need friends to get the most out of it.
Yeah, probably.
And not to say that it can't be enjoyed by yourself. I mean, the game, again, the difficulty arranges itself depending on how many people are going into the game, so you can still have a comfortable time going solo. But explorers want you to make friends, you fucking loser.
Well,
Enjoy the game with 3 other people.
To be fair, it's actually really easy to play with people that are on your friends list. And it's easy to jump in and out of each other's games is another thing. The entire multiplayer system is very to the point. It doesn't take a whole lot of time. The only thing you'll really end up waiting on is your other party members for them to, set themselves as ready for the quest, which, yeah.
Get on the airship already.
I was that guy. That guy was me.
Did anybody try out multiplayer with random people?
I have not.
Nope.
I have not either.
You're the only friends I need.
I have a policy, and this policy was born of trying to play Streets of Rage 2 with random people, and that's don't. Because they're never going to want to wait for you to pick up an item, and they'll just leave the game at random, and I don't like that. So
at the very least, they can't really shit talk you. Thanks to the chat options you got,
quote unquote chat.
Quote unquote chat. They keep it to stock phrases so that nobody can shit talk you. More like hurry the fuck up, tank, do your job, healer, do your job. It's more like this is my first time, or I'm using motion controls. Sort of
Keeping in mind, this is a very Crystal Chronicles style game in the sense that it's very cartoony and child friendly in the way it presents everything. So we're not going to have any Type 0 shenanigans here. Yeah. The story is very simple and basic. It's a questing game, not a story game.
Yeah, and, I noticed that. Like we played it for about combined with what me and Lewis recorded before we met up with all 4 of us. There's very little story here. Like
you go to an island and you kill things.
No, you want to know what's interesting though? This is more story than any Monster Quest game ever had. The whole point of Monster Hunter is you go and you hunt monsters. There's no real framing for it. It's just you do it.
So it's like The Witcher. Subtract the plot and all of the characters.
I suppose. I've never played The Witcher.
The game begins with you being. Well, first off, your first encounter in the game is fucking Bahamut. I was like, well, how the hell did this happen? Like, going a little over our head here, and then you're encouraged to run away because you can't fight the thing head on, and then from that point on, it's like, you know what? We're gonna start you small.
Yeah, you have a town hub with a crystal in it, much like in Crystal Chronicles. Fortunately, you do not have a magical bucket to carry around that shields you from an evil mist that surrounds you, so you don't have to worry about your party members separating. In fact, party members can actually run to completely different areas of the world map and do their things separately, which I thought was interesting, because most multiplayer games that I've played don't let you do that kind of thing.
You mentioned the cartoonish style of this game mimicking Crystal Chronicles. This game does look really good. Environments, character models. Well, the first thing I noticed right off the bat when we boot the game up is that the first thing you do is that you customize your character. This game suffers from Xenoblade Chronicles X syndrome, bodies of adults, faces of children, which disturbs the hell out of me.
Well, yeah, character creation is unfortunately very limited. You only have a small handful of faces and hairstyles to pick from. Yeah. If you want to customize your character to look like a character from the actual series, you kind of have to earn that through the game. So, like we got to a point where we could buy forge Sephiroth's outfit out of 10 Genova cells, which you get from, I think, one of the quests where you fight Shiva.
They're now available at wholesale.
You have to grind it 10 times.
Yeah, grind the Shiva boss fight 10 times.
Well, we don't necessarily know that there's not a later mission that gives you a better return on Genova cells, so...
So do you want the Sephiroth costume now, or wait?
Do you want to wait and see if there's a more convenient way to get it later? And yeah, one of the things they advertised is that you can, in fact, run around dressed up as various Final Fantasy characters, from Kain in Final Fantasy IV to Lightning in Final Fantasy XIII. Yeah.
It's not just getting their costumes, although you can get their costumes to wear all the time. Later on, we were in the stuff that we recorded, we were just about to unlock this ability. You also get an ability called Trance, which if you unlock them by talking to the sketchy-looking Moogle in the main town, sometimes you will unlock trances which actually turn you into those characters. So I got, I think, Yuna, Eris, Squall, Lightning, maybe Riku, I don't really remember. So you can actually just straight up turn into Final Fantasy protagonists for a limited amount of time.
The actual gameplay itself, the combat is fairly good. I enjoyed it. It has a good amount of flow. You have a dash move that runs off your power bar, but it takes a while for it to actually run down, so you can get a lot of ground behind you before having to slow down a little. The actual fighting, I think, it's satisfying, but there are some slight niggles that make it a little tough to manage at times. When you're locked on, you're not necessarily going to automatically turn and attack what you're locked onto. With whatever spell you're using.
When it's not proximity based, it's definitely priority based with the log on. In the case with boss fights, as me and Lewis discovered as early as, and you too, Ted.
That goddamn dragon.
If you're in the same room as a boss, when you lock onto something, it will prioritize the boss. What you have to do,
all the way across the map.
Yeah, from all the way across the room, which is really weird. But what you have to do, which I don't think is obvious enough, is that you have to go look at the bottom screen and force your lock on to prioritize on either the big threat or the small threat. The big threat being the boss, the small threat being the 7 goblins surrounding that boss. And it's a bit weird. It's a bit off-putting because, you run into those goblins before you run into the dragon. And you're trying to lock onto the goblin, but it's locked onto the dragon instead. And it's like, no. I mean, you could still manually target or manually aim your attacks or spells, whatever class you got, but it's still a little weird.
It's weird in the sense that you can adjust to it and have fun, but you kind of have to have that patience to get used to it and then adjust, and then it plays smooth as butter once you understand how all of this stuff works.
I wouldn't say smooth as butter, like...
Well, almost. As smooth as something on this cramped 3DS with the D-pad camera and stuff can ever play for me.
What is your point of contention, Ted, with the controls?
It's just a little clunky overall is the big thing. Like moving is smooth, attacking is smooth. It's just what's kind of clunky for me is one, the camera. Even having the new 3DS doesn't really help all that much because the new 3DS's little joystick nub is not as helpful as you would think. And also skills like having to press the L button and the R button and hold them down to use the face buttons for skills is sometimes a little bit weird because the L and R buttons already have other functions.
You have to tap the R button to lock on. You have to hold it to bring up your R button skills. You have to tap the L button to reset the camera to behind you very quickly, unless you want to fiddle with the D-pad, which in my case I don't want to do. And
No.
because I don't have a Circle Pad Pro and I don't have a new 3DS, I'm stuck with the D-pad for my camera control, and it's positioned directly below the analog stick that I use to move.
As me and Ryan can attest, we Ocarina of Time this shit.
Yeah,
yep,
same.
tap L everywhere.
Yeah, you tap L, the camera will face wherever your character is facing, unless you're locked on. And when you're locked on, the camera will focus quite competently on whatever threat you're locked on to. So that's helpful. But the thing is that sometimes I'll push down one of the two buttons for just a little bit too long, and it'll bring up the menu briefly.
You pressing down L and R has more function than just the Crystal Surge. That's a gameplay element of this, is that throughout the mission or the quest, you build up resonance. It's a little meter on the top left corner of the screen, and when it reaches a certain threshold, well, further, the game kind of lies to you in the beginning of the game. It says once you reach about 100, you should be able to activate a Crystal Surge.
No, it's whenever it feels like.
It's like it's 140 actually.
It's like after 100, at 140 you get your first Crystal Surge, and that Crystal Surge will remain until your resonance drains to below 100.
Yeah.
The game doesn't really explain this thoroughly, and once you use the Crystal Surge, your resonance stays where it is. You do not, in fact, spend resonance on Crystal Surges, but you will have to gain more resonance in order to activate another Crystal Surge, and I have no idea what the milestones for that are.
Yeah, it's like a checkpoint system that you can't clearly read.
Yeah, but at the same time, Crystal Surges happen so fucking often that I really don't care anymore, because it's basically like whenever a character uses a Crystal Surge, they get a small grab bag of unexplained effects that the game doesn't tell you what they are. You kind of have to experiment and figure them out. Like
1,000 needles, anyone?
yeah, they could be as simple as an elemental, as a temporary elemental affinity, or they could be something ridiculous like 1,000 needles mode, which makes every attack in the game used by either you or your enemies do exactly 1,000 damage, which is ridiculous in the early game, by the way, both for you and for your opponent. Like you can take down a boss's health really quickly, but at the same time, if they hit you with something like Judgment Bolt, you're dead.
I love how Crystal Surges are, plentiful, no problem with that. It's just I really wish there was an explanation to what these things do, because some of them are not very obvious.
Yeah.
Is there a point to going invisible with stealth? Does that mean enemies can't lock onto me? Are they no longer aware of my presence even if I activate it right in front of their face? What about like Tonberry Karma? Like, does that increases?
As far as I can tell, Tonberry Karma made it so that the more enemies you kill on the mission, the more damage your attacks would do. Really, the most important thing about Crystal Surges is that after you do one, you can fire off your other skills afterwards, and it will add like a sort of element to that skill. Like, for example, if you use Cure after a certain Crystal Surge, it will have like the ability to cure ailments when you also cast Cure, and then you can buy the Cure spell again with that buff, and then you can attach it to your character, and if you get another Crystal Surge after that buff, then it will have 2 buffs on it. It gets very, very complicated.
Do we really have the time to study all this at like in the middle of battle? I think the answer to that is no.
In the middle of battle, you can't study it. I'm not sure if there's some menu screen in the game that you can access to look up the different Crystal Surges while you're in the town, but the thing is you can't access the same menu out in the field that you can in town. So even if there is one, you can't check during the middle of a quest, I don't think. But I do like the Crystal Surge ability customization system. I think it's a really interesting way to build up new skills, in the sense that eventually, in theory, you can pile on a whole bunch of Crystal Surge added effects to a single skill and have all those effects on that one skill, and it does increase the amount of power that it takes to use that skill. But you could potentially build a character that has a really, really complicated a strategy built into it if you put in the time to
bonus
figure all
points
this
if
stuff
you
out.
have a team with you, like in Ted's case. I wouldn't be able to launch as many magical spells as I did against our enemies if it weren't for his, what was that, the beseechment ring?
Yeah,
or something
if
like that?
you were in the circle, when apparently that's an ability exclusive to white mages. If I shout that off, it replenishes about a couple hundred AP, I think, is the ability bar. Although I discovered earlier today that doing physical attacks on enemies will quickly refill AP. So
Yeah, they teach you that like first thing in the game.
Well, I picked
Yeah,
the mage,
yeah.
so how many physical attacks do you think I was doing?
Yeah. The other thing, though, is that while all of this stuff would be an insidiously long grind if you were doing it all single player, particularly the Crystal Surges and getting your skills all buffed up with them. When you're with a team, you're firing off so many Crystal Surges so quickly that your skills tend to gain abilities pretty fast.
Yeah.
So
like one of the subquests you get is like activating all these affinities, and it's like, oh my god, I'm gonna be here all day. But like you play 3 other people, it's like, oh, I can do this in 10 minutes.
yeah. So even on the elements that you'd think, just going off general multiplayer game logic, even in the elements that you'd think players should go off on their own and do solo before they join a multiplayer game, they're actually streamlined in such a way that they roll along faster when you're in multiplayer. In that sense, I suppose it's like grinding dungeons in Final Fantasy XIV.
Grinding is really the name of the game with Final Fantasy Explorers, for better or worse. It's a handheld game. I can forgive it because this is definitely one of those, oh, I gotta take a shit, better whip out Final Fantasy Explorers, I can probably get some grinding done. Carrie and Ash, this was a good shit. Yes, and I call it a day. That's kind of what this game is. Not very good for marathoning. I wouldn't recommend doing that, but perfectly fine for small bursts, as it should be for the device it was designed for.
And the quest structure is designed in that spirit as well, because like I think the most we ever did, what was the longest quest when we recorded together? 15, 16 minutes, 18 minutes maybe?
Yeah, around there.
Yeah, you could get a quest done in that time, and that's if the quest is actually difficult. There are tons of shorter quests and sub-quest objectives that you can go out and do in no time flat.
Do we want to cover final thoughts to wrap this up? Ryan, why don't you go first?
It's enjoyable, but all the complaints are quite valid. If you're a solo player, I would probably pass up on this, but if you have friends and just like to just hang out with them and play something while you're talking, it's a good time.
Yeah, it was good. I don't know how invested I plan on getting into the game because, I'm not sure how long this will hold my interest, or if after I beat the main story there will be enough meat to keep me going. But I didn't regret getting it. So,
Are you talking more as co-op or solo or both?
oh well, if you've got a dedicated group of friends that are planning to play this a lot, I think I would definitely recommend it. As a solo game, it's okay.
And just to clarify where my opinion is on this, because I know some of our viewers are a bit. They don't really separate like from dislike all that well when I talk about things. Maybe that's my fault.
4-point scale.
Maybe that's my fault, but I would recommend this game quite a bit. Not to the level of other Square games like Bravely Default or Final Fantasy XIV, but it's definitely a fun time. I enjoyed myself, and I plan on playing some more of this when I have more free time to spend on it. But it's not a game that I'm going to be ranting and raving about on Twitter like I've been known to do.
My thoughts pretty much hold true to what these guys have already said. I think it's a perfectly fun little action RPG from Square. Very grind happy. It kind of comes with the territory given the setup. Don't treat this as a typical Final Fantasy because you'll be disappointed in that regard. The game looks great. It sounds great. I couldn't hear much of the music because of how our recording setup was. The only other issue I can really think of at the moment, just to cover this real quickly, is that the frame rate does take a hit when you have 4 or 3 other people with you. So if you're a stickler for performance, the 12 frames per second may drive you nuts.
I didn't actually notice that on my
end. It got pretty crazy when we're all like dogpiling an enemy with magical
spells. Then again, were you the one hosting?
Yes, I was the one hosting.
That might be actually why. Oh man.
Well, either way, that is a thing in that game. Just as a bit of forewarning. But I do recommend Final Fantasy Explorers, not so much as a solo game, but as a multiplayer experience, because really that's what they want you to do. So have at it and get some friends. Either way, folks, that's all the time we have for this mini reviews podcast. Yeah, it was nearly half an hour, just like I said it was going to be. And we hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, we got some live playthrough recorded for Brain Scratch. You can check the link in the description below and see all the shenanigans we go through that. And if you end up liking that, please let us know. We'll definitely consider recording more of that for your guys' entertainment. Thank you guys, Lewis, Ted, Ryan, for joining me in this mini review podcast.
Where's my money?
Pleasure to have you. You'll get it when you leave. Thanks again for joining me, guys. As for you all watching, have yourselves a fantastic night and take care.